So I've just gotten home from the grocery store. I went on a literal walk in the park, and I went and visited my old apartment complex to turn in my keys. And I'm moving my feet under this table because this cat likes to claw at me. So if I'm seeming fidgety, it's because I don't want him to think that he can just, because he likes to make biscuits in my legs, and that does not feel good. Anyway, I've picked up this. I've never had this before. Olipop strawberry vanilla. This is tasty. This tastes like a strawberry Fanta to me. Fanta. I don't know. Whatever. So I wanted to make another rambly bambly video thing because as I was turning in my keys, I was reflecting, and I sent like a Snapchat video to some friends that I was reflecting. I was like, a lot of people made some comments pointing out some things about my old apartment, my first apartment, about how like the sink was wonky, the light in the kitchen was wonky, the bathroom was, there was just weird things about it, okay? But I made a comment in that Snapchat video where I basically said, one of my favorite things about myself personally is that I have an ability to romanticize my life. I have an ability to fall in love with my life, and to be quite honest, like I genuinely miss living in my apartment because of that. I genuinely miss the neighborhood, the overgrown, overrun park with the really old gazebo that has not been shown any like love or power washing in years. Seeing hawks, seeing squirrels, seeing snakes in the river, like I loved that. I really did. Like seeing, random neighborhood kids, like, out and about, like weird things I would see, from my window inside the apartment, watching the sunrise, being on the second story, having that big balcony window right there by my work desk. Like I miss all of that. I miss the white, sparkly, like granite countertops. It was so pretty. It was my first apartment. It was the first thing that was ever 110% mine. I didn't, co-sign with nobody. It was my first real slice of real adult independence. And I mean, I kind of chide myself because I'm like, you were old by most American standards. I was 28. Yeah, I was 28 when I first moved into there. Most people, there's this stigma where like you need to move out and be independent in your 20s or by 18 or something. And I don't think that's realistic, especially in this economy. That's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, with the divorce and everything, I got a late start, but I'm really proud of everything that happened in that chapter. And when I say that chapter, I'm talking about the tail end, the later half of 22 up until August of this year, when I moved, or September when I moved here. I'm really, really, really happy with how that chapter went. And if you're watching this and you know the details of my life, you're probably like, are you sure? Because like there was the car accident, there was the root canals, there was this, there was that, and yeah, I absolutely mean it, because again, I have a way of like romanticizing my life, and I really believe that if there is hardship that I went through, and there was a lot in that time span, I believe I was meant to go through it. It was supposed to strengthen me, to give me more resiliency, to show me, what all I really can handle. Because, oftentimes I think we as people, we say, oh, I can't do that. Especially if you're someone, raised like I was, anxious and raised to be a people pleaser and raised in an abusive environment, you kind of get used to assuming that you're incapable before you would ever assume that you are capable. And that leads to not taking risks, and that leads to living in a fear-based mentality where you think, that everything is out of reach and always will be. And the thing about the hardships that I've personally have went through is they've shown me that it's not as out of reach or as impossible as we convince ourselves that it is. No matter what the thing we are talking about is, there might be some additional steps to get there. you might have to really change and grow. There's a lot of growing pains that have happened. And there was a lot of tears and a lot of upset and heartbreak and depression. I mean, shit, I was flirting with suicide, basically. It was not pretty. But that's why they call it growing pains, right? But I really do miss that chapter of my life. And it's not because it was better, because it's not. Like, I love being here infinitely more. Like, I'm trailer trash. I want to come home to my fucking trailer. Okay. But it was the first, like I said, it was the first thing that was mine. And it was in my life, it was the first time I ever experienced true freedom. Financial freedom, emotional and explorative, creative freedom. It was the first time I experienced freedom. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for everything that I've gone through. I know a lot of people online, when you talk about your traumas and everything, there's a lot of people that kind of sentiment, going through things makes you stronger. It's kind of become an unpopular thing because people don't like this idea that you have to suffer to get stronger or better. But I understand why you wouldn't like that mentality. But I mean, to be quite frank, that's what life is predicated upon. All of life. You do not become a better athlete until you suffer, workout pains, in the gym or whatever. You don't become a better student until you give yourself a headache trying to learn how to do an equation and researching for hours and, getting exhausted and your back hurting. You don't become better until you take a risk and have real skin in the game. You don't ever really grow. I truly believe that, some of the best people in the world, they are amazing people because they have had to learn patience. They have had to learn humility. And I think humility is a big lesson that a lot of people in this day and age are missing out of. And I'm not saying humiliation. I'm saying humility, like the Christian value. The opposite of arrogance, the opposite of being stuck on yourself, the ability to sit with stillness and sit with peace. And see yourself as part of a whole, and not from a place of ego, but from a place of, I am part of this, greater thing, and and there are things that happen to me. Some of them are because of things I've done or not done, and then some of them are just happenstance. I don't believe that bad things happen because people deserve bad things to happen to them, right? It comes down to happenstance. But I do believe that if you have an opportunist mindset and you believe that when bad things happen to you, that there is a potential for you to learn something from it, when you frame it that way, all of a sudden you have defined your suffering and you have given it meaning. In the story that I'm writing, in Martyr the Bride, there is a verse that I penned in 2022 based off of the divorce, the affair, everything. And I'm going to paraphrase it, but I've rewritten this probably 5 or 6 times already. But basically it says, there is mercy. This is the quote. There is mercy and suffering spared, but it cheapens the experience. It bastardizes one of life's greatest gifts, one of life's most unwanted gifts, the sensation of pain. That's the quote. There is mercy when we don't have to suffer, when we don't have to go through something awful, when we are spared from tears and heartbreak and losing jobs and losing family and losing our house and losing stuff. There is suffering that is spared. But it cheapens, it bastardizes the lesson of pain. It cheapens your experience in life. Because when you know the depths of hell, it gives context to how good surface level is. And that is appreciation. And it gives level to how great and how wonderful a personal heaven could be for you. It helps redefine things. It helps you see yourself as part of a whole. It helps you know your strengths, your weaknesses. It helps you know the very worst parts of your soul. We are all our worst selves whenever we are going through our worst moments. We're crying, we're hurt, we're angry, right? You need to know those things and have an intimate relationship with them first before you can develop a meaningful relationship with happiness. You have to have a deep and intrinsic relationship with what pain is going to teach you before you are ready to be taught what happiness has for you. Hi, buddy. And that's what I believe. And, kind of circumventing and kind of going along with that entire thing is just, I've always been able to romanticize my life here in Huntsville. When I used to work with college kids, people, sorry, there was a cat. When I used to work with the college kids at the Starbucks, they would always talk about, there's nothing to do in Huntsville. There's nothing to do. It's so boring here. Because there's no clubs. There's no nightlife. I get it. I understand. That's valid, right? But to say that it's boring is an insult to the national park, is an insult to little parks like Eastham, is an insult to all the antique shops, is an insult to all the gravel driveways that lead to somewhere or nowhere, all the random and cute cow pastures, all the history here. And there's a lot. It is an insult. If you cannot find something to appreciate, it's because you're not looking hard enough. There is something positive in everything negative. And that, my ex used to tell me, and I kind of believed it myself, that I was a pessimist. He used to tell me that all the time. Oh, you're such a pessimist. You're so negative. No, I'm a realist, and I'm not ashamed or afraid to express negative thoughts, to express negative emotions or fears. I don't believe that what we express in moments of vulnerability really define us, other than maybe they just mean that we're more authentic than some people are willing to be. But, I don't believe I'm pessimistic. I don't think I ever was. I don't think you can have an ability to romanticize something as mundane or, ordinary as living in a small hick town like this one if you're not an optimistic person. You can know the depths of hell. You can be suicidal. You can struggle immensely with your mental health and see all of the darkness. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you are someone who can only see that or who is defined by that. You just have an intimate relationship with those things. And so I remember walking around the parking lot at work in 22, and I remember saying that to myself. And that was before we had actually officially separated, but I said to myself, I want to develop a relationship. I want to have an intimate relationship with pain. I wanted to know pain, truly. And I said that to myself in my head while I'm walking around the ITD parking lot listening to music. And recently, I've said to myself, okay, you've graduated. Now it is time to develop your relationship with happiness. You understand the depths of hell. Now go above and beyond that. Lift yourself up and go above and beyond that. You hold the keys, all of them. We are the keeper of our own salvation. We have to unlock it within our own minds, and that's what I believe. And part of that is as simple as learning to fall in love with the life that you have. That's all I got for you today. So I'm itchy as shit. There's mosquitoes on me, but I tried this and it's really tasty, and I should have bought like 3 more of them. But anyway, let me go in before these cats and mosquitoes eat me alive.